Thank you for the question. And the reason that I make these videos, the reason I started making these videos is to talk to someone who was in my exact situation. So just to sum up what that situation exactly was, I was depressed. I had an eating disorder. I had a food addiction. My only coping mechanism was food. The only endorphin rush I think I got was filling my stomach up over and over and over. And, I slowly became a habit that I could not get out of because I was so depressed. And, the bigger I got, the more depressed I got, the more depressed I got, the bigger I got. It was a vicious cycle full of anxiety, depression, panic, feelings of worthlessness, shame, and absolute misery. The way I felt about myself on the inside was absolutely awful. And the way that I looked and my ability on the outside eventually caught up with that when I could no longer even walk. I had to ride the mobility scooter in Walmart. I had to be pushed around in a wheelchair in Chicago. I never sat in a seat without being worried that it was going to break. I never walked any distance without sweating. My back always hurt. My life quality was very poor, and the only source of joy that I had was binge eating. Now, that's where we're starting, right? And everything seems impossible from that place. It's such a dark place with the absence of light that you feel like you've dug a hole so deep that there's no possible way you could ever get out. And one of the first things I told myself back in early 2017 when I was trying to figure out how I was mentally going to prepare myself to do something that I had already done once before from 2006 to 2009, where I lost 250 pounds and got 17 pounds away from my 200 goal weight before the binging took back over and I quickly regained so much weight. And that was a 3-year process. So it was very mentally difficult to get myself back in a place where I would even attempt something like that, knowing exactly how long it took and how hard it was going to be, and knowing that I could lose it as fast as I did, and feeling weaker than I ever felt back then, because my first journey was right after my father died. I was 26 years old. Now I'm, staring at 40. I feel tired. I feel weaker. I don't have that same motivation, that same drive I had at the time. So it mentally was the hardest thing. And one of the first things I told myself was, if I got myself in this hole, I could get myself out. It's just not going to be quick. And so the first thing I did was forgive myself for everything I had done before that, because all I ever did was beat myself up. Every time I, got going and did something wrong, beat myself up. That beating myself up would lead to more eating. It was in my way, because the way I cope, food. So I had to let that go. I had to let go of that need that I had to just lash myself and be ashamed of myself. And I made a deal with myself that while I was doing it, while I was trying to improve myself, that I was going to be easy on myself. And something I heard once that stuck with me, it said, if you have to beat yourself with a feather. And I remembered that. So like the times when I would mess up, instead of just beating myself up, I would look at it from kind of a pulled back perspective in a neutral way, and just analyze it and say, what did I do wrong here? What could I have done better? And what's the plan next time? That was in lieu of saying you're a failure, you're a loser, you're never going to do it, this is proof, So that's a big change, and that's not one that a lot of people talk about, but it's one that you have to have with a mindset for a lifestyle change, because you're not just going on a diet, you're not just doing something for a while. You have to learn to live in a way that you can live with and that is satisfying to you while being in the calorie range that you need to be. And that's a lot of different things that you have to learn in order to do that. And it's a process, and that's why it takes time. That's why trying to lose weight fast is not something I would ever recommend, because you are trading the experience and knowledge you need to go forward with speed of weight loss. Not just fat loss. The more you cut your calories, the more bone, the more muscle you lose on top of the fat. And a lot of that's water as well. It's not what your focus should be. It should be on gradual improvement, because if you continue to focus on improving every single day, and that is your focus, and that is the journey, and you learn to accept yourself where you are, you forgive yourself, and you learn from your mistakes, and you just keep trying different things, then by process of elimination, which I did, I took every wrong road ever. If you keep going, you will eventually find what works for you, and you just got to keep on going. When it gets hard, when it gets tough, you got to keep going, and that is the key. And when things are really bad, and I've gone through this even recently, there's a lot of different kinds of holes you can be in, and when things are bad, you really have to just kind of focus on the process and trust the process, and you have to just continue going forward even when you don't feel like it, realizing that those times you don't feel like it are the most important times. Like, those count for so much more than when it's easy and you're just in the groove. Being in the groove is the dream, and that's where you want to be most of the time. But there are always going to be things that come up that's going to make things harder. That's just life. That's the way it is. There's going to be holidays. There's going to be deaths. There's going to be tragedies. There's going to be breakups. There's going to be everything. There's going to be everything. There's going to be, terrible loss. There's going to be highs and lows, and you've got to be able to keep going through the lows, because keep going, the consistency part of it is everything. So I hope that helps. Good luck. I understand, but just one day at a time, one step at a time. Forgive yourself and never give up.